Hello, everybody. It is Monday, the 30th of March, and I want to think about again, what it is we're in and what it is we're doing. And I want to bring forward an idea of what it is we're doing, and that is, are we learning how to be human? Are we learning how to become a human being? When we enter into this matrix, is that what this world is teaching us? How to be a human being? I was triggered. I was watching David Icke, and at the moment, I don't know, maybe it's the way I've set up my, subscriptions and stuff, but absolutely bombarded with videos from all sides. Right, and David Icke said, about the beings that are outside of this matrix and what they call the astral zone, that they are hive minds, which I believe they are. And then he says that, humanity is also a kind of hive mind, and it is not. That is the entire point. Humanity is not a hive, well, this world is not a hive mind. Great parts of humanity are hive minds within this world, religious hive minds, political hive minds. But this world is not. It's not a hive mind. And that is why I'm wondering if we're coming here to achieve a higher level of consciousness from the hive mind. Again, let me say, this world, the truth of this world is seen in nature. I mean, don't look at humanity. We've gone so wrong, it's unreal. The truth is still in nature. And there are no rulers. There are no elevations. There is no central point. And everything is not just one thing. But it's made up of all manners of consciousness. If you look at the forms and say that is consciousness, a tree is consciousness, the soil, the mineral, the vegetative, the animal, man, were all consciousness, then this is a place where consciousness comes together, all levels, all forms, to create a web of life. A web, not a pyramid, not a hive mind, a web in which each has its function, each gives, each receives. In order to function in this web, you have to give to the web, yes, but you will also receive of the web. And it is not a case of losing yourself, but being yourself. Being yourself, finding yourself a place where you can function in a good way to the benefit of all without losing yourself, keeping the balance between self and others. And I would say that if you can achieve that, you are on a very high level of consciousness, which is not in the hive mind. Neither the ruler, the Yaldabaoths, I'm the only one and everything must obey me, they are not on a high level of consciousness. And neither are the slaves, obviously. I must serve God, I must do as I'm told. I should not judge, I should have no will of my own. God is the only one and I must do as I'm told. That is not a high level of consciousness either. So these hive minds are really made up of two extremes of low level consciousness, either end. So did we come here to achieve being a high level of consciousness? That is, that we no longer see ourselves in the pyramid, in the hive mind, but we see a greater truth of the universe, and it is a greater truth of the universe. I said it before, if you look at the neurons in your brain, everything is a depiction of the truth. Look at the neurons in your brain, look at that web. Where is the center? If you see pictures of it, where is the center? where does everything emanate from? Where's the highest point? There is no highest point. There is no up and down. It is just a web of points that are connected to each other. And again, not every neuron is connected to the entire web. They're connected to what is around them. Yeah? Look at the stars through an energy radiant telescope and you will see exactly the same thing. Where is the highest point? Where is the highest point in space? Where is up and down in space? There is none. That is the truth that you're shown in this world. There are no elevations. They're just points that are connected to other points. Another thing, of course, this world shows you that in looking at the ecosystems, you can see that things that go together will, those that wire together, fire together, even in form. Yeah? And there are animals in this world that have no direct connection to each other. A giraffe does not have a direct connection to a whale. They're in completely different environments. They are completely different consciousnesses. They cannot actually connect directly to one another, but they can be part of the same web. They can occupy the same space as the same world. They can still both be useful by being what they are. They can still be useful to the whole without being bosom buddies with each other. There's no requirement for that. In fact, in order to do that, then you would have to lose yourself. Yeah? So the giraffe needs to become a whale, or the whale has to become a giraffe. So one of them would have to lose their self. This world is not asking that. I would say the universe is not asking that. It is not asking for you to lose yourself, but to be yourself in a constructive way, not in a destructive way. And to be that would be a higher level of consciousness. Now, again, I want to go back to Jesus because we are being indoctrinated, or Christians, and I would say anybody in the Abrahamic religions. They're being indoctrinated in calling the lower level consciousness the greater. The God of the Bible, which is obviously a low level consciousness if you actually read the text. If you look at the book of the Revelation, it is obviously a low level consciousness. Very low level. And we're being indoctrinated as seeing that as the highest, whilst this world is the lower. And I'm saying it is the other way around. This is the depiction. The world is the depiction. This matrix is a high level consciousness. And we're coming here to learn to achieve that level. To even achieve the level of human. Now, then if you look at it like that, the way of the cross, the crucifixion, when Jesus said, I'm coming from this place, somewhere outside, in the astrozone, wherever the kingdom is, and I'm going back to it. I'm reverting back into really the slave part of that kingdom. Yeah, I will do as I'm told. I will obey. I going to, again, sacrifice myself, self-sacrifice. I'm sacrificing myself in order to serve. Then coming into this world, he was given the chance of raising his consciousness, and he reverted back. And then the way of the cross and the resurrection is not a triumph, it is a complete and utter failure. A complete and utter failure to reach a higher level of consciousness. Something else that is shown clearly if we look at it in the New Testament, and that is the acquisition of knowledge whilst you are in this world, which people do. Again, acquisition of knowledge on both the material level and the spiritual level. Now, Jesus had obviously a high level of spiritual knowledge. I mean, he was a master in several disciplines. If you look at what is happening in that text and what he's doing, he was the master of several disciplines. But if he then reverts back to the hive mind, then that clearly shows you that the acquisition of knowledge is not the same as a high level of consciousness. Knowledge and consciousness are not the same. You can have the highest level of knowledge and be a very low level consciousness, which, again, looking at this world, it clearly shows you that truth. You see people that have knowledge or access to knowledge. They have others, they have the archons that have the knowledge that serves them. Yeah. They use that knowledge in order to rule over, in order to have power. And that means they are a low level consciousness. So are those that are serving them. I don't actually know who's lower. So it shows you that having knowledge does not mean you are on a high level of consciousness. And again, the same thing applies to spiritual knowledge. Acquiring spiritual knowledge and how to do things with spiritual energies does not mean you're on a high level of consciousness. High level of consciousness would show itself through what you do with that knowledge, how you use that knowledge. And then in this world, again, the one lesson that would bring you, I would say, is the way to a high level consciousness is love your neighbor as yourself. Don't do unto others what you wouldn't want done to yourself. It is the recognition of others, which first of all gets you out of the Real de Beo state, thinking that you are the creator of all, because you are not. No one being is the creator of this world. This world is created by all that have their being in it. So it will get you out of the ruler state. But then you also must come out of the slave state. You know, again, it is not a case of give to the point of self-destruction, of self-sacrifice. But it is the balance between the two. It is the way of the middle. And if we have achieved that, we will have achieved a high level of consciousness, and then we will be human beings. Right now, I think many are missing the mark of being a human being, of functioning like a human being. And therefore, they have missed the mark of reaching a high level of consciousness. They're either below or they're above, but they're not on point. And then again, if we die and we say we go to heaven or whatever, I think we go into the astral zone, because we have missed the mark. We have not achieved being human, and we're coming back, or we should come back, to achieve being human, to achieve being an integrated part of a universe that is as diverse as it can get, to live with diversity, to function within diversity. And I said, most of in this world, they have not achieved that. They came from a low-level consciousness. They are acting according to what they are, low-level consciousness, and they are not taking this opportunity to achieve a higher level of consciousness. But they're elevating themselves as being the only truth, and they're saying this world is nothing. And it is pretty much the other way around. So, yes, did we come here? What can this world teach us? This world can teach us to become a human being. A human being is a being that is on a high level of knowledge, yes, but as it stands, a low level of consciousness. And can we bring the two together? Can we be knowledgeable whilst being on a high level of consciousness? Which means, although we have the knowledge and we can be all powerful, we need to restrain ourselves, because we need to function in the web of life, in the web of existence. Can we be on a high level of knowledge whilst being self-restrained without losing ourselves, again, falling down the other way, which you shouldn't do either? And can we achieve the level of being human whilst we're here? Yeah, this world is here to take you to a higher level of consciousness. What we worship as the gods are low consciousness beings. And we should, and a lot of people are actually trying to go there. Yeah? Trying to become that. I mean, Jesus, on the way of the cross, became that again. Reverted back to where he came from. Completely missed the mark. That was a failure. That was not a great thing. So yeah, can we achieve becoming human beings? Can we actually function in diversity without killing each other? That we all be of use to each other whilst remaining ourselves. Can we do that? Can we reach that level of consciousness? Can we learn the lesson that we are taught here? Or are we really that dim that we just cannot rise in consciousness? Anyway, here, folks, I leave it at that for today. And I talk to you again soon. Bye.